So our video for today is about the case of James Leininger, and this is a look at reincarnation and the continuity of the soul. Today we're going to delve into a case that challenges us to expand our understanding of the soul, memory, and spiritual continuity. You are in a unique position to look deeply at the nature of human experience through this story of consciousness and the profound mysteries of existence. Today, I invite you to engage with the story of James Leininger, a young boy whose claims about being the reincarnation of a woman who died in a hotel fire pushed the boundaries of conventional spiritual thinking. This case not only invites us to reconsider the nature of past life memory, but also invites us into a conversation about the possibility of spiritual continuity across lifetimes. As we look at James's story, I ask you to hold in tension both spiritual insight and critical reflection, acknowledging the layers of meaning that can emerge when we consider both personal experience and collective wisdom in the realm of spirituality. So, what is our prelude to this story? Well, James Leininger was born in 1998 in Louisiana. As early as the age of 2, he began speaking about being a flight attendant, a role he had no reason to know about, given the fact he was only 2 years old. And some people aren't always even speaking at 2 years old. And so the parents are looking at this child and they're thinking this is very strange that he not only is able to speak quite young, but he also is talking about things he should have no knowledge of. So he has this references to flying, airplanes, about being a flight attendant, by looking at airplane claims. And so he eventually starts to give this name Pam, that he knows of, and how this woman died in a hotel fire, and how she had to escape to get away from the flames of this hotel fire. And so these are just things that James could not have possibly known about. So James's parents are struck by the precision of his memories, and they begin to investigate. They're like, is there something to this? Is there an actual person that their son is referring to that actually matches the description? And so they realized in 1973 that a woman named Pamela worked as a flight attendant for Eastern Airlines. Tragically, she had perished in a fire at the Howard Johnson Hotel in New Orleans. Accounts from that time indicated that some guests, including Pamela, had jumped from the upper floors of the hotel in an attempt to escape the flames. James's description of the fire, the hotel, and even Pamela's fate seemed to align uncannily with the details of this historical event. This is the point at which we begin to feel the full weight of the mystery. A 3-year-old boy with no prior knowledge of the event is offering insights that match, in remarkable detail, a tragedy that occurred long before his birth. I mean, we're talking about more than 20 years here. So we have to ask, how does this tell us anything about the continuity of consciousness and the nature of the soul? And so this is where reincarnation and soul continuity comes into play. Because from a spiritual perspective, James Leininger's case invites us to explore profound questions about the soul and its journey. Within these traditional spiritual frameworks, particularly those influenced by Christianity, we may often conceive of the soul as a singular, continuous entity created by God. In this view, the soul experiences one lifetime with the hope of union with the divine in the afterlife. This view would generally reject the idea of reincarnation, which is the idea that the soul could return in another body after death. However, within other spiritual traditions, such as those found in Eastern spirituality like Hinduism or Buddhism, reincarnation is seen as a natural part of the soul's journey or destiny towards enlightenment. The traditions would propose that the soul undergoes multiple lifetimes in order to learn, grow, and ultimately reach moksha or nirvana, which is states of liberation or unity with the divine. This raises a theological question. Can Christian spirituality and any other traditions accommodate the possibility of reincarnation? Could the soul, in fact, undergo cycles of life and death, carrying forward lessons, knowledge, and experiences from one life to the next? The case of James Leininger offers a unique challenge to these questions, as his memories of a past life seem to point to the possibility of soul continuity beyond the traditional notion in Christianity of a single finite lifetime. How might we understand this in a spiritual context? Could there be a mystical connection between this life and the next, even if we are not immediately able to see it or comprehend it? And so there are going to be some skeptical views and some psychological considerations. As with all extraordinary claims, we must entertain the alternative that maybe James's memories are the result of subconscious knowledge or cultural suggestion. Maybe he learned it from somewhere else. Maybe it's a product of his environment or a form of psychological projection. Maybe the human mind has a remarkable capacity to fabricate memories, that these memories are not real but are merely reconstructed from external sources. In psychological terms, phenomena such as false memory or confabulation may offer explanations for why James might describe events with such clarity and accuracy. As spiritual scholars, however, we must also consider the potential for mystical or transcendent experiences that transcend materialist explanations. The notion of spiritual memory, a concept explored by various mystics and theologians, suggests that the soul might retain some form of consciousness or awareness across several lifetimes. In this view, James's memories are not so much fabricated, but perhaps a manifestation of a deeper spiritual reality that goes beyond time and space. Integrating James's case into spiritual practice, we would think that these kinds of cases invite us to rethink our theological and spiritual models. The mysteries of the soul, the afterlife, and the possibility of reincarnation are not only intellectual exercises, but they also have the potential to transform the way we live, pray, and understand our relationship with God. As students of spirituality, you are called to engage deeply with both personal and collective experiences of the sacred. This case, however unusual, provides an opportunity to reflect on how we experience God, how we understand our spiritual journeys, and what we do to confront the mysteries of existence. Does reincarnation or the possibility of past life memories conflict with our understanding of spiritual growth and salvation? Could we integrate experiences like James into our broader spiritual practices, especially in light of the existing Christian doctrine of resurrection or other religious frameworks? In conclusion, our soul's journey is definitely a complex one. And the story of James Leininger offers a profound spiritual questions. What happens to the soul after death, and how does it continue to learn, grow, and evolve? James's case invites us to reflect on the possibilities of spiritual continuity, whether through reincarnation or some other form of soul development. We also still have the idea of collective consciousness as well. And so I would encourage you to consider the deep mysteries of the soul in cases like James, which bring that to light. What does this case reveal about the nature of memory, the journey of the soul, and the divine mystery that guides us all in our spiritual lives? Can we remain open to the possibility that the soul's journey is more complex and more expansive and more transcendent than we ever traditionally believed? Think about this. I believe that the parents of James took him to see the family of Pamela, and while they may have initially had some communication, after some time, the family chose not to deal with the Leininger family. Perhaps they may have been too hurt by the idea of reawakening some old painful memories, or perhaps they may have disbelieved James Leininger altogether and just dismissed it as the work of a child that doesn't know what they're talking about. It's hard to say, but the fact that the family became resistant to the idea can reflect a lot of issues. For one, that maybe some people regarded this as being too crazy to be believed. Maybe some people thought this was a publicity stunt. Maybe some people thought maybe his parents put him up to it. There are a lot of possibilities we can come up with, but the fact that, as reported by James's parents, he was able to know so many details and eventually give enough information that led his parents to find some sort of newspaper archives which talked about Pamela's death some, what, maybe 25 years before James was born, was in fact pretty remarkable. But again, it could be a subconscious bias on the part of the parents that maybe they were desperate to find some reason for James to be talking this way, that maybe it just happened to be pure coincidence that they found a woman who seemed to match the descriptions of what their son was talking about. Unfortunately, that's the thing when we are conducting investigations of this sort, is that we have to not be quick to jump to conclusions, and we have to be careful enough not to allow bias to creep into the results, so that we don't end up with a scenario that maybe we're trying to make something be real when in fact it's really just a vague reference, right? This is what people complain about, say, when they talk about Nostradamus. You know, Nostradamus is supposed to be this prophet, the seer that was able to see well ahead of his time. But the opposition always complains that, well, what if it were the case that Nostradamus just gave these vague prophecies which are subject to interpretation? And maybe in that interpretation, people could try to make it fit the situations they're currently seeing to say, oh, Nostradamus is right. He knew what he was talking about. When in fact the opposition will say, well, he talked about something general enough that you could then adapt it to this modern day event. And it just seems like it happens to match, but that could be pure coincidence. So we have to be careful with that. Particularly when you ever have a hypothesis and you're testing to see whether or not the hypothesis holds true. There's always a certain degree of error that can creep into the results, and so we have to be cautious with that. If you like this message, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, it's a safe space. All are welcome. If you're returning, I'm glad you're back. In the name of the Most High God, I wish you blessings, health, wealth, abundance, and protection. Woodman signing off. Have a great day. Take care.